the first team all-conference picks, and interestingly enough, the media and the coaches agreeing on the entire first team. And I don't think there's much of a surprise here. Kofi Cockburn, Keegan Murray, E.J. Liddell, Jaden Ivey, and Johnny Davis. Cockburn, Murray, and Davis, all unanimous picks by the coaches. So everyone had them on the first team. Interestingly, at least one person on the media panel did not have Davis. He was not unanimous on the media panel. And not a surprise that these are the five. I think we believed all along, Andy, this was the group.
Yes, although there were times this season when Trayce Jackson-Davis,
agreed,
was in this group.
I would say we've believed for the last month
yes,
this was the group.
I took some flack at one point when I had Liddell off, TJD on, but over the last couple of weeks, it was clear this was the five. I'd say earlier in the season, we didn't know for sure that there would be only one Purdue player. I think there was a time where we thought, there could be two Purdue players, right, one of the two bigs, Edey or Williams, and there was a time where it really looked like Trevion Williams was playing the best in the Big Ten. So they sort of slid off, and then it really did solidify that this was the five that you had to have on your first team.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I don't think, I'm a little surprised that Johnny Davis wasn't unanimous with the media.
Who's this person?
I don't know. Who knows, right? But that those three were the unanimous picks. It does feel to me as though those three kind of separated themselves. Would you agree? Like, I think as you talk about player of the year in these last few weeks, and obviously we'll get to that later in the show, but it felt like it was Murray and it was Davis and it was Cockburn in whatever order kind of you favored. Those were the three who had separated.
Yes, I would say, though, in January, and we talked about this, there was a point where E.J. Liddell was one of the most efficient players, not just in the Big Ten, but in the country. And had Ohio State stayed healthy and competed for the Big Ten title, I think Liddell would have been in that group pushing potentially for that. And I would also say with Jaden Ivey, even though he wasn't never going to have the numbers that Davis and Murray and even Kofi had, if Purdue didn't drop some of those games, if they had won the Big Ten by a game or two or three, because there was one point where it looked like they could have done that, I think Ivey would have had a great shot to win it.
Yeah, I agree with you on all counts there. So that is your first team. Let's get to the second team, and there was some relative unanimity on the second team as well. A couple of differences kind of along the margins on the second team, but the media going with Trent Frazier, Trayce Jackson-Davis, Hunter Dickinson, Zach Edey, and Ron Harper Jr. The coaches had that same group, but Wisconsin's Brad Davison gets second team honors as well because it was a tie in the voting. So 6 players named to the second team by the coaches. Thoughts on that group, Andy?
I am a little surprised. Obviously, Davison ties to make that group, and he was critical for them. I will say this. First of all, I love that Trent Frazier was there because I do think he was arguably one of the most valuable players in the league, without question, especially navigating the season that Illinois had to get a piece of the Big Ten title with Andre Curbello's injury. TJD and Hunter Dickinson, 2 players that came into the season as potential Player of the Year candidates, so that's a natural for them to be there. Zach Edey, it's interesting getting over Trevion Williams because early in the year, Trevion Williams was playing much better than Edey, and then they sort of flopped. So not surprised there, not surprised that it ended up being there. And then Ron Harper Jr., how many big shots did he make this season? He has to be there because of what he did, Indiana, Purdue, and just his overall consistency.
I think it speaks to the depth of this league. Hunter Dickinson had a fabulous year statistically, and just a fabulous year, period. You're looking at a guy who was a consensus second-team All-American last year. Not a second-team All-Big Ten player, a second-team All-American. Had a really good year again. I think it speaks to how good this league is, and I think you can make the same argument regarding Trayce Jackson-Davis. He's an All-American caliber player, and yet I don't really think there was a whole lot of discussion, certainly not in this last month, as we talked about when we kind of got that separation, that those guys would be first-team All-Big Ten. And again, I just think it speaks to how good this league is in terms of having fabulous individual players this year.
And I think we also have to celebrate, I hate to say like a positive out of what we've experienced as in a sports world country in the last couple of years, but I don't think there is any other league like the Big Ten that, for lack of a better word, benefited from the COVID extra year and NIL, the combination, than this league. Trent Frazier, Brad Davison, Kofi Cockburn, all three of those guys, you could maybe say potentially Hunter Dickinson and Trace Jackson Davis, all those guys may not have been here had it not been for the extra year, certainly the super senior year, or the NIL piece, that all sort of the perfect storm that came into this season to allow all these guys to return.
No doubt. I think it's changed the landscape dramatically, and I think we're only beginning to feel how it's going to change the landscape. But I would agree with you. I think there's a lot more incentive for players to come back now. And so how this impacts guys going forward, it'll be really interesting
But just
to see.
think, if they did not grant that extra year, no Frazier, no Davison, how would that have changed
those are
in Wisconsin?
two teams that tied for the Big Ten title, right? And you think of how important those players were. So not just that they made the decision, but to your point, even that they had the opportunity to make the decision, right? That it would not have been there. Let's get to the third team. In total, 7 players making one of the third teams. That includes Davison, who was a third-team pick as well. 4 players the coaches and media agreed on. Alfonso Plummer, he's the only transfer to make one of the 3 teams. Bryce McGowens and Malachi Branham. So 2 freshmen both make it. Trevion Williams, who you were talking about. The coaches also honored Gabe Brown and Geo Baker, neither of whom made the media team. Interesting to have 2 freshmen on there, first of all, because I do think the consensus is those are the 2 guys battling for Freshman of the Year.
So here where I would take a little issue.
Okay.
And this is no offense to Gabe Brown and Geo Baker, but if there are 2 to 3 other players that I might have put ahead on this third team, I would say Fats Russell, number 1.
Certainly down the stretch, he's been phenomenal.
I mean, Maryland does not get to play on Thursday without Fats Russell.
Right.
They beat Ohio State. Their play down the stretch, led by Fats Russell, was significant. It was all Big Ten. I would say John Hare from Penn State had a phenomenal super senior season.
Yep.
And then if you were to push a third freshman, I don't know if there's a spot for him, but I would say Chucky Hepburn, because he was as important to Wisconsin as any other player not named Johnny Davis in terms of them getting a share of that Big Ten title, was a freshman starting at the point. So I would say, the Gabe Brown pick is a little surprising to me because I thought he had a very inconsistent season. I mean, you could make an argument that, whether it was Malik Hall or at times Max Christie or Tyson Walker, I don't know necessarily if Gabe Brown was their most consistent player to deserve to be all Big Ten. And I love Gabe Brown, but I'm just saying when you look at in comparison to some of these other players, especially Fats Russell.
How about Jamison Battle? I mean,
Yes,
I
of
realize
course.
they
Sorry,
finished.
thank you.
I realize they finished in last
Yes.
place in the league, and I get it, and it's hard to reward that. I mean, I think when you make these selections, a lot of think about
I would counter that and say, if you're even thinking that, why is Bryce McGowens on there? Because Jamison Battle, you could argue, would have just as much a place on there.
Right, and you could make a case for Peyton Willis as well on that team. I think Jamison Battle had some moments where you're just like, holy cow. I mean, just phenomenal scorer, while guarded, while clearly the focus of the opposing defenses. And again, they had that really nice run at the beginning of the year where people were talking about them as kind of a dark horse, and they were in NCAA tourney brackets. Obviously, it just got worn down, I think, as the year went on. But he's another guy that I would think of as wow, he really had an exceptional season.
And I will say this, what is remarkable about Michigan State, and you can look at this different ways. One, incredible balance. On the other, they did struggle. This is a all Big Ten 1, 2, 3 teams, and there's just one Spartan, and sort of at the end of the third team.
Yeah.
That's not the norm for Michigan State.
Right. It's interesting that he was a pick of the coaches. I always am fascinated by who do the coaches pick, right? Because it's scouting reports, it's watching game film, it's all of those things that, frankly, the media doesn't do, right? I mean, it's just a different role. It's not to say that one's more important than the other in terms of the picks, but it is, they look at it with a different eye, with a critical eye. So I do think it says something that Gabe Brown made.
He's very well respected in the league, 4-year guy. But will you agree with me that Fats Russell probably is the one player among that list that would have deserved to have been on the third team?
Well, I might say Jamison Battle, too.
Okay.
But I agree with you. I mean, Fats Russell, down the stretch, has been as good as almost anyone in the league. I mean, just been tremendous, and you can see why, again, an impact player. I do think it's interesting how few transfers made this, right? I mean, that Alfonso Plummer's the only one who made one of those first 3 teams. And when you think about how important the transfer portal is, and you can go down the list of just about every team in this league and transfers play a role, but for Alfonso Plummer to be the only one who shows up in the top 15 or actually 17.
I will say this. Next year, I think we're going to see more transfers have an impact because so many players are probably leaving because of what we discussed earlier. Senior year, NIL, no longer the COVID year and all that.
Yeah, no doubt. And so we do lose a ton of very good players in the Big Ten. I mean, assuming that guys make the jump to the NBA, I think that we're expecting to. We do want to give you a look at the honorable mention players as well. It is a massive list.
And there they are, the guys we're talking about.
16 additional players who did not get named to one of the top 3 got honorable mention nods.
Tyler Wall's another name, too.
Yes, 7 honorable mention by both the coaches and media. That group includes Jordan Bohannon, Russell, Battle, who we talked about, Willis, Hara, Sasha Stefanovic, Tyler Wall. Congratulations to all of the all-conference picks. It is quite an honor. It is time for our big stat. 3 Big Ten players averaging more than 20 points per game this year. Keegan Murray, Kofi Cockburn, and Johnny Davis. You look at the last time that happened, it was a long time ago, the mid-1990s. Look at the names on that list. Sean Respert, Alan Henderson, and Michael Finley of Wisconsin. Speaking of Wisconsin, the Badgers' Johnny Davis has been named the Big Ten Player of the Year by both the coaches and the media. Davis having a phenomenal season for a Wisconsin team that shared the Big Ten crown. 3rd in the Big Ten in scoring, also their leading rebounder. He's the first underclassman to win the award since Caleb Swanigan at Purdue 5 years ago. The 4th Badger to be named Conference Player of the Year, with Frank Kaminsky winning it most recently. One of the amazing things about Davis, the higher the stakes, the better he's been, averaging better than 24 points per game in the Badgers' 8 games against ranked teams. Fantastic on the road as well. Remember, he scored 37 at Purdue, and which judge of that 20-point per game stat, he is the first Badger to average 20 per game since that season with Michael Finley nearly 30 years ago. Johnny Davis joins us now. He is our big interview. Johnny, congratulations, first of all. What was your first thought upon hearing that you had won this award?
My first thought when Coach Gard called me to let me know was, no way. You never really envision yourself being in a position like this, but I think I've worked hard enough for it and deserve it.
Well, you certainly do, and the voters agree on that. It's fascinating to see the jump that you made from last year. You didn't start a single game to this year being Big Ten Player of the Year. And obviously part of that was you guys had a veteran group last year. But how do you explain kind of this, at least in the eyes of the Big Ten world, this epic jump that you made?
I think I've always been this type of player, but I'm just really getting the opportunity to showcase my abilities this year. And, I wouldn't be the player I am without my teammates. They do a really good job of playing with me and, finding me in my spots. And, I do the same for them.
How important was that USA basketball experience over the summer in terms of helping you improve your game?
It was really great. It didn't really help me improve my game as much as just give me confidence. Realizing that I could make a team full of 30 guys competing to make that team and make the final roster of 12. It just gave me the confidence that I needed and, told me the type of player that I can be.
Was there any particular moment there where that confidence skyrocketed? Is there a moment you can go back to in that experience and say, wow?
I would probably just say after the fact, when we won the gold medal and I came back to campus, I was bragging to my teammates just a little bit. But, that's just the type of person I am. But they knew the player I was and what I was capable of doing. And they just did a really good job of assisting me in helping us win games this season a lot.
As you are certainly aware, there were several other players in this Big Ten Player of the Year conversation in addition to yourself. Let's pretend for a moment you had a vote, and let's pretend for a moment you can't vote for yourself. Who would you have voted for?
That's tough, but I'm going to have to go with Kofi, just because they also won a share of the Big Ten title.
What's it like to go up against Kofi? Obviously, you don't guard him, but just kind of seeing the presence that he is on the floor.
Yeah, he's one of the biggest dudes I've ever been around. Not height-wise, he's got some strength to him. But, it's just great to be able to play against a player like that and, witness greatness in himself as well.
Well, no one expected much out of you outside of your program probably, and no one expected much out of this team. You guys were picked for 10th place in the Big Ten. At what point did you realize, hey, we're going to be pretty good?
I would say right after that Maui tournament, just because, three games in 3 days is, it's a lot, even, that early in the season, especially when, you're playing for a championship. But, once we won that tournament and I could just see how well we bonded together, I knew that we were going to be able to, win a lot of games this season.
Johnny, I need to ask you about your injury. You left the game against Nebraska on Sunday. I know Badger fans are concerned, obviously. Bring us up to date on how you're feeling.
I'm feeling fine now. There's a lot of time left until the Big Ten tournament, but I'm just going to take it one day at a time, and I should be ready to go.
Give us a sense of exactly what happened. Kind of take us through that play. My understanding is you had already had a little bit of an ankle injury coming into this game, correct?
Yeah, just something slight that happened the day before the Purdue game, but that wasn't. No, that was very mild, and this one is just a little more mild, I should say. But it's nothing serious at all.
So you feel like you'll be at full strength in the Big Ten tourney?
Yes, I do.
After seeing your chance to win the conference outright kind of slip away there on Sunday against Nebraska, are you guys viewing the Big Ten Conference tournament differently and maybe a shot to kind of prove, hey, we are the clear-cut best team in this league?
Yeah, you always still got something to prove as long as the season's going, but I really don't think it affects us that much at all. Going into the tournament, if you lose, you're done. Your record doesn't really matter at all.
What are the conversations internally, just in general, on this team as you head into the postseason?
Just to keep doing what we've been doing all year. Defense, sharing the ball, playing as a team. Making sure we're the hardest working team on the floor, that's all.
Well, best of luck on that, Johnny. It's been such a pleasure to watch you play this year. Congratulations on this well-deserved award, and look forward to watching the Badgers here in Indy and moving forward in the NCAA tournament. Congratulations again.
Thank you so much.
A couple of other individual awards. Purdue's Trevion Williams winning the 6th Man of the Year award is voted on by the coaches. Williams, who was a first-team All-Big Ten selection of the coaches a season ago when he started 26 games, came off the bench 27 times this year, still scored in double figures 20 times, currently in the top 20 in the nation in both offensive and defensive rebounding percentage. The coaches also select a Defensive Player of the Year, and that goes to Caleb McConnell of Rutgers. McConnell leads the league in steals, better than 2 per game, anchors a Rutgers D that finished 4th in the conference in efficiency in league play. McConnell, the first Rutgers player to win an individual conference award since the school joined the Big Ten. McConnell joined on the all-defensive team by Trace Jackson-Davis of Indiana, Trent Frazier of Illinois, Hoosiers and Illini 1 and 2 in the Big Ten in defensive efficiency and conference play. Ohio State's E.J. Liddell, the conference's block shots leader, on there as well, as is Purdue's Eric Hunter. Wisconsin's Greg Gard has been named the Big Ten Coach of the Year as selected by both the media and his fellow coaches. Gard led the Badgers to a share of the Big Ten regular season title after they were picked 10th in the unofficial preseason media poll. It marks the second time in 3 years Gard has won the award and the 6th time it is won by a Badger coach, with Bo Ryan having won it on 4 occasions. You look at some of the accomplishments of this Wisconsin team, the most obvious one being the Big Ten title. 16 quad 1 and 2 wins. That is 4 more than anyone else in the league. They won 12 games away from home, captured 15 games by 6 or fewer points, had a 15-game win streak in such games, halted Sunday. That was the longest such streak nationally since the three-point line was instituted in the 1980s. Greg Gard is with us now. Coach, congratulations. First of all, what does this award mean to you?
Well, Thanks, Dave. First of all, thanks to all the people and the coaches and the media that voted for. I look at this as us. This is I know it's an individual award with one person's name on it, but if I could chop it into a bunch of pieces and hand it out to obviously our staff, our team, and all the people that help in this. There's a lot of people that have their fingerprints on it, but I think whenever somebody gets this type of an award, it's it means that I've had a really good team, which I have, and obviously proud of our guys. And like I said, one name goes on it, my name, but there's so many people that have had a part in this success.
At what point did you realize you had a really good team?
Actually, June, July, I thought we were going to be pretty good just watching the pieces come together, and thought we had some talent. Obviously, we got a star in Johnny Davis, but so many other pieces that have helped along the way. And then it was just a matter of putting that all together and seeing how we were going to spawn in game environments. But this group has worked hard all year long. It's been a really connected group, and obviously the success speaks for itself.
You mentioned Johnny Davis winning Player of the Year as well. He made such an incredible leap this year. How do you account for that, aside from obviously superior coaching?
Maybe that's the one thing, right, Dave? No, I mean, you could tell, I could tell a year ago he was trending in that direction. I mean, he had all the ability, but I think a number of things. One, he got stronger in the offseason, worked on his game, got better at ball handling, got better at shooting. Obviously, the weight room was a big part of it, and just the opportunity to have a bigger platform. With seniors leaving last year, he was going to step center stage and really was ready for that. And then obviously he spent time with Team USA and the U19s, and I think that just bolstered his confidence. When he came back from that in late July, you could tell, not that he ever lacked confidence, but he was at a whole nother level in terms of his belief in himself and how good of a player he could be.
Greg, I mentioned this team was picked 10th by the media, and let's just be honest here. I mean, there were some questions about this program in the offseason. You had that locker room tape that was leaked. How do you go about moving on from that as a program? Like, what were the steps that you took to get from there, where at least externally people were asking questions, to this point where you guys share the Big Ten title and had all these accolades come your way and your team's way?
Yeah, I think, Dave, when you have the right people and you try to do things the right way, good things can only happen. And I think that's the one thing. My staff has been really good, my 3 assistants. Our team has bought in and, continue to do things the right way, knowing that it's going to take a lot of hard work and there's always going to be outside noise regardless. Just focus on the things you can control, focus on the things that matter, and that's within our locker room and within our program. And all those people that have had invested so much into it have done a phenomenal job with that. So that was really the focus, is just let's do what we know and know what we do, keep working hard. We know we can win, and I think having good people and trying to do it the right way in the long run pays off.
Well, you've certainly proven you can win, particularly in the close games. And I was outlining that stat before we started the interview. How do you account for that? I mean, again, you have to go back to the 1980s. No one's ever had a streak like that of 15 straight wins in 1 or 2 possession games. How do you find yourselves in a position where you are winning a disproportionate number of those games that feel like they're coin flips?
Yeah, I think, it's obviously a credit to our players for maintaining their poise and their composure in tight situations. But I think one of the things that we try to focus on every day in practice is maximizing each possession. And every possession has the same value, whether it's the first 5 minutes of a game or the last 5 minutes. So valuing the ball, trying to get to the free throw line, putting an onus on each possession. And really, I think we don't change the way we play down the stretch. We don't have to alter who we are when maybe from the outside the possessions become more valuable or at a higher premium. So I think they're very accustomed to trying to get the most out of every possession regardless of the situation. And over the course of time, I think that pays dividends in terms of developing really good habits and the trust they have in each other.
Coach, you've gone through a big personal challenge this year. Your mom, Connie, diagnosed with cancer. You've spoken about it openly. How challenging is it to kind of maintain your focus on the day-to-day of coaching a team and running a program when you have that in the back of your mind?
Yeah, it's obviously challenging. I think that puts my profession or my job in perspective. It's just it's a game with t-shirts and shorts, and you have people that are going through real life problems and real life health issues. And she's not the only one. Obviously, cancer is a dominant, unfortunately, disease in our society. But I think just going through what we went through with my dad 5 years ago. And then also knowing that she's got tremendous support, medical support, personal support, family, and she's had a phenomenal attitude through it. I've just with her a little while yesterday afternoon, so she's doing well. She's continuing to fight each day, and prognosis looks good. Things are going well so far, but she's had a phenomenal attitude, and I'm really proud of the approach she's taken to try to tackle this.
Wonderful to hear that. She is, of course, in our thoughts. I know the thoughts of Big Ten fans everywhere. Let's turn the focus ahead here to this team. You head into the postseason now, starting with the game Friday in Indy. What's the focus with this group? You kind of build all year to get to this point, and so what's the message as you head into the games that certainly once you get to the NCAA tournament become elimination games?
Yeah, I think you keep the same type of focus. It's one game at a time, not trying to overemphasize one game over another. We always try to operate in the day we're in. So we'll try to practice really well today and correct some things that didn't go our way or we didn't do well from Sunday and learn from that, and then quickly turn the page and get ready for either Michigan State or Maryland, both teams that are very capable, that have played well. So it's going to be a challenge regardless. You get to this time of year, seeding doesn't matter. You got to take care of the 40 minutes in front of you, and hopefully we're able to do that and play deep into the weekend.
First and second round games for the NCAA tournament in Milwaukee. You are going to be in that tournament no matter what happens in Indy. What would it mean to be in front of the home fans for a couple of games?
Well, we've been there before, a couple different times. So that would be awesome. It'd be awesome for our fans. It'd be awesome for the family members of our team, obviously our alumni, our students, and everybody. So if that could happen, that'd be terrific for the state of Wisconsin. And we'll see what happens, whether we Milwaukee or wherever we get sent. We'll just try to make the most of it, enjoy the experience, and see how well we can play.
Well, Indianapolis is first on the travel agenda. We look forward to seeing the Badgers there on Friday. Coach, congratulations again on a phenomenal season. It has been so much fun to watch this team. Really happy for you and your group, and we'll see you in Indy.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Ohio State's Malachi Branham, the freshman of the year, according to both the coaches and the media. Branham, the second leading freshman scorer in the league, has been great down the stretch, scoring in double figures in the last 8 games, including 31 in the Buckeyes' win at Illinois. He is the first Ohio State player to win this award since D'Angelo Russell 7 years ago. In addition to selecting a freshman of the year, the coaches choose an all-freshman team. Branham joined by Nebraska's Bryce McGowan, who won the Conference Freshman of the Week award 7 times. Also honored Michigan's Moussa Diabate, Michigan State's Max Christie, and Chucky Hepburn of Wisconsin. It feels to me, Andy, and I think to you too, like it probably came down to Branham and McGowan's. You agree with this decision?
Well, we've debated this quite a bit.
We've spent a lot of time on it.
I went back and forth, and actually my final decision over the weekend was I was going to go with McGowan's.
Okay, why?
I thought that overall he was the most consistent player of the freshmen, and the fact that he weathered a bit of a storm and was really the only thing that you could argue held this team together until they got good as a group in the end of the season. Didn't play in this last game, obviously, and they've won 3 in a row. So I wanted to, in my own way, reward Bryce McGowan's for the work that he put in. Look, Malachi Branham obviously had an outstanding season.
Right.
You know what's interesting on that list? We're in a new world. We'll see how many of those players come back. I'm assuming Chucky Hepburn will, obviously, and I think Moussa Diabate will, but you never know. I got to believe McGowan's, he's an NBA-level talent, so is Malachi Branham. Max Christie, I think, would come back.
Max Christie is interesting because I think coming into the year, the thought was that he might very well be a one and done, but it has been a little bit more up and down for him than for those other two, for sure.
The one concluding thought I will say,
please,
before we get out of here is, one, I think this leads into a great week in Indianapolis because there's so much talent. And secondly, there are a number of Big Ten teams that have a player who can carry them a round or two or more. And that's because of the talent we just saw on that first Big Team, all Big Ten first team.